Welcome, dear friend, to this quiet haven we have prepared, and thank you, with a genuine warmth we hope you can feel, for choosing to spend these restful moments here with us. We have spun for you a gentle story, one designed not for grand adventure, but to be a soft, comforting hand on your brow, helping to smooth away the creases of the day and guide you toward an easy and peaceful slumber. If, as you journey into this quietude, you find a measure of solace in our tale, please do, just before you drift away, lend your support by liking this story, subscribing to our channel, and perhaps leaving a kind thought for us to find. Your simple gesture helps these tranquil tales reach others. Before we open the doors to the archives, where the soft flutter of ephemeral moths fills the air, we shall first share a moment of gentle breathing to quiet your spirit. Now, let us invite a deep and true comfort to settle over you, much like soft dust settling in a quiet, sunlit room. Find your most restful position, allowing your body to sink with a gentle weight into the support of your bed, feeling every part of you held in a safe and easy embrace. Draw your blankets around you, a soft and reassuring cocoon against the world, and let your pillow cradle your head, making a perfect, cozy hollow just for you. This is your time, a gentle pilgrimage into peace, where all the ticking thoughts of the day may simply unwind and slow, inviting a quietness into your heart as profound as the ancient silence held within the Somnolent Archives. Let us share a soothing breath together now, one as slow and unhurried as the gentle rhythm of the archives itself. Gently and without any strain, draw the air in through your nose, imagining it as a cool, clean stream of silvery light filling every quiet space within you. Then release it just as gently, a soft and almost inaudible sigh of pure relief. With each slow, easy breath, feel your body softening, much like a tightly wound clock spring slowly unwinding, letting go of any small points of tension you might be holding. Imagine the clean, sweet fragrance of dried drowse-blooms and the comforting scent of old, peaceful paper, filling your senses and hushing the small, lingering noises of your day. If, by some chance, your thoughts begin to flutter, much like the gentle moths around a glowing crystal, that is perfectly all right, dear one. Simply notice them without judgment, allowing them to drift by like small, fluffy clouds in a vast, calm sky. And then, with the kindest of intentions, guide your attention back to the steady, quiet rhythm of your own breathing. There is nothing more for you to do now, save for listening and allowing the story to be a soft, steady vessel, carrying you toward the deep and restorative rest you so richly deserve. Let us now begin our quiet journey into the Slow Almanac of Sleep, where the gentle hum of glowing crystals and the soft scent of slumber await to cradle you in a serene and deeply restful sleep. Chapter 1. The ticking ceases. For Alistair, the world was made of ticks and tocks. His life was a symphony of precise metallic clicks, the whir of tiny gears, and the patient swing of 100 different pendulums in his small, light-filled workshop. He loved the order of it, the logical, dependable beat that governed his days, yet, of late, A different rhythm had begun to intrude. It was a frantic, brittle ticking from within his own chest, a feeling as if a spring inside him had been wound far too tightly and now threatened to shudder and break. The clean, sharp scent of metal oil and polished wood, once a comfort, now seemed to hold a nervous energy that mirrored his own. It was on an afternoon when the light slanted through his workshop window, illuminating a constellation of dust motes in the air, that he first felt the pull. It was not a sound that drew him, but its perfect opposite. A pocket of profound, resonant silence in the corner of his hearing. It was a quiet so deep it felt like a physical presence, a cool and gentle weight against the cacophony of his life. Driven by an instinct he did not understand, Alistair put down his loop and his tweezers, wiped his hands on his soft leather apron, and walked out of his shop, leaving the door to swing softly shut on its chorus of ticking clocks. He followed the feeling of quiet as one might follow a scent on the breeze. It led him away from the cobbled streets of the town, up a gentle, sloping path that wound its way into the soft, green chalk downs. The air here was different, carrying the clean, earthy fragrance of grass and wild thyme. The only sounds were the sigh of the wind and the distant melodic call of a skylark. With every step, the frantic ticking in his own mind seemed to recede, replaced by the slow, steady beat of his own feet on the soft turf path. He felt a loosening in his shoulders, a gentle unfurling of a tension he hadn't realized he was holding so tightly. The path ended at a low, unassuming door set into the bright white face of the chalky hillside. It was a simple arched door made of a pale silvery wood with no handle or knocker, only a smooth, worn patch where many hands must have pushed it open. It seemed less like an entrance and more like a natural feature of the hill, a place of quiet invitation. Alistair hesitated for only a moment, then placed his palm flat against the smooth, cool wood. The door yielded to the gentlest pressure, swinging inward with a soft whisper of sound like a page turning in a very old, very large book. The air that flowed out to meet him was a revelation. It was cool and utterly still, carrying a complex and deeply calming fragrance. There was the dry, sweet scent of ancient paper, the herbal perfume of dried flowers, and beneath it all, a faint, comforting aroma like warm milk sweetened with a drop of honey. It was the scent of slumber itself. He stepped across the threshold, and the door swung silently closed behind him, plunging him not into darkness, but into a soft, gentle twilight that was a balm to his tired eyes. For the first time in what felt like a lifetime, Alistair heard nothing at all. The ticking had finally, blessedly, ceased. The chamber he had entered was vast and circular, its high domed ceiling lost in peaceful shadow. There were no windows, yet the space was filled with a soft, diffused light that seemed to emanate from large crystalline formations embedded in the chalk walls. The light shifted and changed with an impossibly slow rhythm, moving through hues of soft blue, gentle lavender, and a pale creamy white. It was a living light, one that seemed to breathe. The profound silence was not empty. it was full, a soft, heavy blanket that muffled the outside world and, more importantly, the frantic noise inside his own head. He stood there for a long time, simply breathing in the quiet. He ran a hand along the wall, the chalk cool and surprisingly smooth under his fingertips, like polished stone. Bookshelves, also carved from the living chalk, lined the curving walls, filled with countless tomes of all shapes and sizes. It was a library, he realized, but one unlike any he could have imagined. This was not a place for the frantic acquisition of knowledge, but a sanctuary for the spirit. It was a place to be, not to do. Alistair spied a simple, comfortable-looking divan covered in a soft, deep blue fabric tucked into an alcove between two shelves. He felt an irresistible pull towards it. He crossed the room, his footsteps making no sound on the floor, which was covered in thick, soft runners that absorbed every sound. He sank down onto the divan, and the soft cushions yielded beneath him with a gentle sigh. He leaned his head back against the cool chalk wall and closed his eyes. And as he did, he felt it. The last tightly wound spring of anxiety deep within his soul began, ever so slowly, to unwind. Chapter 2. The first entry. Alistair opened his eyes to the sight of a figure standing not far from him, holding a small wooden tray. The man, if that was the word for a being who seemed so much a part of the place itself, was old, with a kind, deeply lined face and a long, simple robe the color of dried heather. He moved with a grace so unhurried that it seemed to slow the very air around him. There was no surprise in Alistair's heart, only a sense of calm acceptance. This was Oren, and it felt as though he had been waiting patiently for a very long time. Oren offered a small, gentle smile and set the tray down on a low table beside the divan. The sound of the tray touching the wood was a soft, deliberate note in the immense quiet. On it sat a single earthenware mug, from which a fragrant white steam rose in a slow, hypnotic spiral. Oren gestured toward it, an unspoken invitation. Alistair reached out and wrapped his clockmaker's hands around the mug. It was wonderfully warm, the heat a simple, profound comfort that seeped into his palms and traveled up his arms, loosening a stiffness he hadn't known was there. He brought the mug to his lips and inhaled the scent. It was a sweet herbal fragrance, like chamomile and lavender, but with a deeper, creamier note that was incredibly soothing. He took a slow, careful sip. The tisane was warm and smooth, with a taste that was both floral and faintly sweet, like honeyed milk. As he swallowed, he felt a remarkable sensation, a gentle, pleasant warmth spreading out from his chest, moving through his shoulders and down his limbs, as if the drink itself was physically dissolving the knots of tension in his body. He looked at Oren with quiet wonder, and the old keeper simply gave a slow, knowing nod. When the mug was empty, Oren gestured for Alistair to follow him deeper into the archives. They walked in a comfortable silence, their path lit by the soft, shifting glow of the great crystals in the walls. Oren led him to the very center of the circular chamber, where a massive book rested upon a stand carved from a single enormous piece of pale petrified wood. This, Alistair knew without being told, was the Slow Almanac. It was a codex of breathtaking size and age, its cover a smooth, dark material that looked like polished night sky, inlaid with faint, silvery patterns that swirled like distant galaxies. The almanac radiated a palpable sense of peace, a low, quiet hum that Alistair could feel in the soles of his feet and in the quietest parts of his soul. Oren laid a gentle hand on the cover for a moment, an act of reverence and affection, before turning to Alistair. With another gesture of encouragement, he invited the clockmaker to approach. Alistair did so, his heart beating with a slow, calm rhythm he was unaccustomed to. He felt a sense of profound awe, not for the book's size or apparent value, but for the immense ancient peace it seemed to contain. Oren lifted the heavy cover with a practiced, effortless movement. The pages within were not paper or vellum, but appeared to be made of something extraordinary, like fine sheets of solidified starlight woven together with threads of pure moonlight. They held a soft internal luminescence, and the air around them seemed to shimmer faintly. The first page was not blank, nor did it hold any writing. Instead, its surface was a swirling, shifting pattern of soft, milky white and pale gray, like clouds seen from a great height. "Place your hand upon it," Oren said, his voice the first sound Alistair had heard him make. It was a low, gentle voice, like the sound of smooth stones rubbing together at the bottom of a slow stream. "Do not try to read, just feel." Trusting the deep calm of the place, Alistair took a slow breath and laid his palm flat against the cool, smooth surface of the page. The moment his skin made contact, the world of the archives, the glowing crystals and silent shelves, gently faded away. He was not seeing, but experiencing. He was overwhelmed with a pure physical sensation, the feeling of a body in a perfect, deep, and untroubled sleep. He felt the gentle, reassuring weight of his own limbs, utterly relaxed and supported. He felt the slow, effortless rhythm of a deep and steady breath, filling and emptying his lungs without a single thought. He felt the profound, blissful quiet of a mind completely at peace, free from worry, free from thought, free from the relentless ticking of time. It was the most peaceful sensation he had ever known. Chapter 3. The Qualities of Quiet. As gently as it had come, the sensation receded, leaving Alistair with his hand resting on the cool page of the almanac. He drew his hand back, his entire being thrumming with a profound and resonant calm. He felt as if he had just had 100 years of perfect sleep in a single moment. He looked at Oren, his eyes wide with a silent, grateful question. The old keeper simply smiled, his eyes twinkling in the soft, crystalline light. "The almanac does not keep records of what happens," Oren explained in his soft, quiet voice. "It keeps the feeling of rest itself." In the slow, unmeasured time that followed, Oren began to gently reveal the other wonders of the archives. He showed Alistair that the soft, shifting light did not come from the crystals alone. Drawn to their gentle glow were countless ephemeral moths, creatures of stunning, quiet beauty. They were large, with broad, silent wings, the color of powdered lavender and the palest blue. They fluttered with a languid, drifting motion, their paths slow and meandering, like thoughts in a pleasant dream. Their wings shed a fine, shimmering dust that caught the light, creating a constant, gentle mist of soft sparkles in the air. Alastair, whose life had been spent with tiny, precise metal parts, found himself utterly mesmerized by these soft, living creatures. He sat for what felt like hours on the divan, simply watching them. He noticed that when the fine lavender dust settled on his hand, it did not tickle or irritate, but felt cool and soft, and it carried the faintest, most delicate scent, like night-blooming jasmine and chamomile. Breathing in this scented air, he felt a pleasant, weightless drowsiness settle over him, a gentle invitation to let go. Oren then led him to a small enclosed conservatory at the back of the archives. Here, under a ceiling of larger, brighter crystals, grew a garden of the most unusual flowers. These were the Drowse-blooms. They grew on long, slender stalks, and their flowers were not brightly colored, but a soft, creamy white. Each petal was thick and fleshy, and seemed to emit its own soft, internal luminescence, making the entire garden glow with a gentle, pearly light. The air here was warmer and carried the sweet, milky fragrance he had first noticed in the Tizen. He learned that this garden was Oren's quiet work. The keeper tended to each plant with a loving, patient hand. He showed Alastair how the petals, when they fell, were carefully collected and dried on wide, shallow trays. It was these dried petals that made the design a simple infusion that held the flower's unique, calming properties. The entire process was one of slow, gentle, and purposeful care. It was a form of work so different from Alastair's own, which was precise, mathematical, and rigid. This was intuitive, peaceful, and cyclical. Alastair began to understand that the Somnolent Archives was not a static place, but a living, breathing ecosystem of tranquility. The glowing crystals nourished the Drowse-blooms. The blooms provided the petals for the calming tisane. The crystal's light also attracted the ephemeral moths, whose scented dust enhanced the atmosphere of peaceful drowsiness. And at the center of it all was the Slow Almanac, the great silent heart of the place, holding the pure essence of the rest that all these other elements helped to create. He touched the page of the almanac again, and this time he experienced a different quality of rest, the feeling of blissful warmth, like being tucked securely under a heavy, soft quilt on a cool night, safe from any and all cares. With each reading, he explored a new facet of the jewel of slumber. He experienced the light, floating feeling of drifting off, the deep, grounded peace of dreamless sleep, and the soft, gentle stirring of a peaceful awakening. He realized his own life had been a collection of sharp, distinct ticks and tocks, each one separate and measured, but here everything flowed together in a gentle, unbroken harmony. The light, the scents, the textures, the quiet. They were all notes in a single, continuous, and deeply soothing chord. He was not just observing this piece, he was becoming a part of it, its gentle rhythms slowly and surely replacing the frantic ticking that had plagued him for so long. Chapter 4. The Unwinding of Springs. Alastair's days, if they could be called such in this place of perpetual gentle twilight, fell into a new, languid rhythm. The clockmaker's instinct for order and purpose did not vanish, but it softened, finding a new expression. He began to join Oren in his quiet duties, not out of obligation, but from a gentle desire to participate in the harmony of the place. His hands, so accustomed to the cold, precise feel of metal gears and tiny screws, discovered a new language in the textures of the archives. He learned to tend the Drowse-blooms. Under Oren's patient, silent guidance, he found that his meticulous attention to detail was perfectly suited to the task of trimming away any browning leaves or gently loosening the soil around the glowing stalks. He would cradle a creamy, luminous petal in his palm, marveling at its soft, fleshy texture and the gentle, milky light it gave off. The work was slow and required a deep, focused calm, a state that he soon found came to him naturally within the walls of the conservatory. He also took it upon himself to care for the almanac. He discovered a very old, very soft cloth, woven from some material that felt like spun cloud, and he would use it to gently dust the great book's cover. He would trace the swirling silvery patterns with the cloth, a meditative act that felt like polishing the stars themselves. The low, resonant hum of the almanac would seem to grow a little stronger under his touch, a quiet thrum of contentment that he could feel travel up his arm and settle in his heart. Often he would simply sit on the soft floor runners, his back against a chalky bookshelf, and watch the ephemeral moths. He no longer saw them as just beautiful creatures. He saw them as living pendulums, marking a different kind of time. Their slow, drifting flight paths were a form of measurement that had no numbers, no rigidity, only a graceful, flowing pattern. He began to feel this slow time, as he thought of it, seep into his own being. His thoughts, which once moved in sharp, quick jolts, now drifted as gently as the moths. One evening, while sipping a warm mug of the Drowse-bloom tisane, he watched as one of the lavender moths landed on his outstretched hand. It was as light as a breath, its tiny feet a barely perceptible touch against his skin. Its wings, powdered with their shimmering, calming dust, beat with a slow, silent, and steady rhythm. Alastair held his breath, not in excitement, but in a state of pure, peaceful observation. He watched the delicate creature for a long time, feeling a profound connection to its simple, quiet existence. He noticed the changes in himself. The way he walked was slower, more deliberate. The way he breathed was deeper, more even. The perpetual furrow in his brow had smoothed away the tightly wound springs inside him, the ones that had driven his meticulous work, and his frantic anxiety had not broken, but had gently and completely unwound. He was no longer a machine of precision, but a part of a living, breathing system of peace. Oren would sometimes sit with him in companionable silence, and they would watch the light of the crystal shift and change. There was little need for words. The shared experience of the quiet, the shared appreciation for the simple, gentle beauty of their surroundings was communication enough. Alistair had come to the archives seeking an escape from the ticking, but he had found something far more profound, a new, truer rhythm to live by, a rhythm rooted not in measurement, but in being. He placed his hand upon the almanac one last time, not seeking a new sensation, but simply to feel its familiar, peaceful presence. He no longer felt the need to absorb its qualities, for he now found they were already within him. The deep, easy breath, the gentle weight of relaxation, the quiet mind, they were his own. The unwinding was complete. Chapter 5. The carry-home rhythm. There came a moment as gentle and undefined as the shifting of the crystalline light when Alistair knew his time in the archives was drawing to a close. It was not a feeling of restlessness, but one of quiet completion. He felt like one of his own clocks, not when it was newly wound and ticking with urgent energy, but after it had been perfectly cleaned and oiled, its movement now effortlessly smooth, steady, and true. The profound peace of the Somnolent Archives was no longer a place he had to visit. It was a state he now inhabited. He found Oren in the glowing conservatory, gently misting the Drowse-blooms with water from a small clay pitcher. Alistair stood quietly, and when the old keeper turned, their eyes met in a moment of perfect, unspoken understanding. No words of farewell were needed. Oren simply smiled his warm, patient smile and reached into a small pouch at his belt. He drew out a single perfectly preserved Drowse-bloom, its creamy white petals still holding a faint, soft luminescence. He pressed it gently into Alistair's palm. The dried flower was as light as a moth's wing, yet it felt as if it held the entire weight of the archive's tranquility. Its faint, sweet, and milky scent rose to meet him, a tangible reminder of the calm he had found. Alistair closed his hand around it, a silent promise to carry its peace with him. He bowed his head in a gesture of deep, quiet gratitude, and Oren placed a gentle hand on his shoulder for a moment, a final silent blessing. Alistair walked back through the great circular chamber one last time. He let his gaze drift over the silent, fluttering moths, the soft glow of the crystals, and the great, peaceful almanac resting in the center of the room. He felt no sadness, only a profound sense of fullness. He was not leaving this peace behind. It was woven into the very fabric of his being now. He paused at the divan where he had first rested, a soft smile touching his lips as he remembered the frantic, ticking man who had collapsed there. He stood before the simple, silvery wooden door and placed his hand against its cool, smooth surface. It swung open with its familiar soft whisper, revealing the bright, gentle light of the outside world. The air that greeted him was fresh and clean, full of the scent of sun-warmed grass and damp earth. A soft breeze caressed his face, and the sound of a bird singing in a nearby bush was not a jarring noise, but a beautiful, intricate melody. As the door sighed shut behind him, Sealing the perfect quiet of the archives once more, Alistair felt no sense of loss. The silence remained with him, a deep, tranquil pool within his own mind. The world did not seem loud or harsh, but wonderfully alive, its own rhythms now feeling harmonious rather than chaotic. He looked down at the pale drowse-bloom in his hand, its gentle scent, a quiet anchor. He started down the soft turf path, his footsteps slow and unhurried. He no longer felt the need for a destination or a schedule. He was simply walking, being present in the moment. The frantic ticking was gone, replaced by a slow, steady, and peaceful beat that came from his own contented heart. He took a deep, easy breath, and as he exhaled, it was a soft, silent sigh of pure peace, a gentle continuation of the archive's own endless, slumberous song, carrying the listener away on that same tide of profound, restful calm.